So,
Okay.
history
So
of
it was kind of a legacy deal.
Yeah.
Classic new executive move.
Yeah. And it wasn't,
Should I ask you how long it took you at Panera?
well, it's a couple year journey, to be honest,
Okay.
part-time. I'm going like 4 days a week, every couple of weeks kind of a thing. And by the way, so we just glossed over center of excellence and community of practice. A lot of people don't understand the difference. It's kind of critical. So you said who owns it? Who has the deep knowledge? One of my jobs is to do the mind meld with a representative in the PMO, which is what it usually is, but it's a DA center of excellence to really teach them what those 2,000 things are, so they have deep knowledge. And then
which is a form of continuous learning as well, because in the community of practice, you probably revisit segments and then deep dive and exchange experiences.
Right. And of course, my job is to work my way out of a job. So I need to do that.
I love that. I love that. As a consultant, I endorse that 100%.
Right. So then we would treat the transformation as a little Kanban project. And every day we'd have a stand up and decide which teams needed our help today. And they would shadow me, and I would coach the coaches, coach the scrum masters or whatever, help them in the retrospectives and restructure teams and move, help them pick a life cycle. So, by the way, so that's center of excellence, right? So excellence means you get it. You understand what DA is.
That's where you're coaching with.
You understand what minimal governance is. You come with governance and sort of say, this is a governance that makes sense for Papa John. So this is what we're going to do. Minimal yet sufficient. And then community practice is, well, you might have a requirements community practice, a test-driven development community practice. And their job is to learn a piece of the toolkit that's relevant to their domain and work together, saying what's working for us between different teams and improve that way.
And learn together.
Right. Those are your methods of continuous learning, which is so important.
Yeah.
Whole thing.
And that doesn't require a matrix organization, right? Like if you remember, like the 80s and 90s, and the matrix organizations were developed for that specific thing, right? You'd get a testing person, and they'd be reporting to the project manager for the extent of this project, but they'd also be reporting to the testing manager, right? And getting direction from both, and then be confusing. And very, very stressful.
I'm gonna ask a typical simple-minded, evil management question, because I got an MBA. I'm allowed to. How long did the process take at Panera Bread? How long did it take at Papa John's?
They're both about a couple of years, maybe a little faster. 2 years ish.
Yeah,
it is done
for both.
You leave. Yeah, well, it was a little faster at Papa John's because I didn't have to.
Yeah, I'm trying to set the ball so you can smash it, so that somebody who books you can say, yeah, I want the Papa John package, not the Panera.
Yeah. Well, the guy behind it, probably one of the best executives I've ever worked on in my entire career.
Give him a shout out.
Mike Nettles.
Yeah. Mike Nettles.
Yeah, he's in the restaurant industry, but he gets it. And so the first one, he kind of trusted Scott.
Now, is Mike Nettles the CIO you were talking about, or?
Yeah, he's been CIO for a number of companies. In fact, at Papa John's, he was actually COO for a period.
Okay, cool.
More out of IT and that helps you understand the value that Papa John saw in the work that he was doing. He's like, we need to make this an organizational thing, not just an IT thing.
Which is a brilliant statement, but makes it in the implementation all the more daunting because there's so many moving parts. Let me ask you a question. Maybe I misunderstood, but I think you kind of allude to it in your I think it's chapter 5, where you're talking about the concept of the levels of process goals. Is that what you're referring to also? Kind of you gotta know from the vision to the mission all the way down to the operational. There's layers. Is that what the focus of that is, right?
Yeah, so the process goal diagrams are summarize the choices, and they're basically a decision tree. If you're familiar with decision trees. So the way you read the diagram is, so when we're exploring requirements, then there's a bunch of issues we need to consider, right? Like, how are we going to prioritize the work? Who's going to identify the work? How are we going to document and a bunch of other things, right? And for each one of those things, so like could be 6 or 7 different ways to prioritize requirements. Not just having a product owner, that's one of 7. right? So this is where the prescriptive methods like Scrum start to fall down, right? They tell you one way of doing things. There's multiple ways that we can capture requirements. There's multiple ways that we can explore requirements. There's multiple techniques. There's like different ways to capture usage requirements, not just user stories. There's different ways that we could capture business processes, not just UML activity diagrams.
Non-functionals.
Like non-functional requirements. Yeah, a whole boatload of stuff. So then to be fair, it becomes overwhelming, right? Because you get like these predictive methods or prescriptive methods that are telling you one official way of doing things. So you get the one recipe for mac and cheese. And then here we're the joy of cooking, and we're saying you need to make some choices here. And sometimes some choices are better than others. Sometimes it's just make the right choice for you, right? And it's the equivalent of like going to this, somebody tells you, well, throw some spice in the mac and cheese, and you go to your spice cabinet and you've got like 50 different spices there. What do you do? Yeah. Right? I don't know what saffron tastes like. Is it really a good idea to throw saffron into mac and cheese? Yeah. Gonna find out the hard way.
Fail fast.
Yeah. So you ruin a meal, right? Like this would be this gets back to the agile thinking. Right? Well, let's just try saffron and mac and cheese and see what happens. No, you know what? Maybe I should talk to somebody who's tried this before. Like, saffron and mac and cheese? Are you kidding? That's like $50 worth of spice you're about to waste on a 5-year-old.
Important to point out that you don't have to make that mistake, because it works in this situation. So saffron not good in mac and cheese, saffron good in pasta or something else. I don't know. But we actually we don't just list the choices. We explain what they are. So in many cases, if not most,
you wouldn't refer to it as prescriptive, but actually it is. There are paths in your development, but it's like you have multiple options, left, right, middle, and you kind of work your way through it.
Well, no, yes and no, but we say don't go left in this situation. If you're like this, your better path is to go right. We say that. Yeah. So your chances of failing are reduced because you're not making decisions. Say, let's try saffron and mac and cheese. No, because don't put it with mac. It's a bad combination.
It's poison. Saffron and dairy mix into poison.
So you're not making choices in a vacuum. Yeah, and be clear, like user stories or not story mapping. Like we don't tell you how to do story mapping. We couldn't, but we could say go buy Jeff Patton's book on it if you're really interested in this technique. But in general, it's really good in these situations. So you go, oh, brilliant! I'm going to try that this sprint, and I better go order Jeff's book to learn.
Yeah. Let me ask you another typical management question that viewers might be asking him. If I'm a CEO, I said, okay, I'd be interested in, if you're saying Mike Nettles is so successful and I want to be like Mike Nettles, of course you've already said it kind of depends on the size of the organization and how complex the context. What time frame would I have to, as an executive, have to invest to get to a major milestone in Disciplined Agile? You're talking about 1-2 years?
You definitely see results like in a matter of a couple months.
So I mean, from an operational perspective, you would see it immediately in individual projects, but from a systemic perspective, you'd have to invest more time until it becomes part of the culture, right?
And you'll often see fairly good behaviors in some of your teams already. It's just, are you able to recognize that they are making choices? Are you able to get out of their way? Are you able to support them? You better yet support them and enable them. And also sometimes too, are you there guiding them? Are you being a good parent?
Well, that goes back to you need that facilitator, that caretaker. If you don't have that caretaker, if you don't have the conductor, let me ask you another question. I've kind of assumed based on what you were saying, or based maybe out of my context, because at the moment I'm doing a lot in the direction of maturity modeling, because I'm trying to cut through the BS there and find simple ways of assessing things quickly. I'm assuming that for DA consultants or facilitators, There are analysis tools available, kind of a good practice on how, when I come into a new organization, where do I start? What are some of the roadmap milestones that I might go through? Is that correct? Do you have a maturity model or an assessment because you have DA? Also, I think there's a certification for DA, Master of the Universe.
Yeah. So there was and there wasn't. Yeah. So as a consulting organization, yes, and we would often start with an assessment for a couple of reasons. First, just selfishly, we need to figure out where they are and what their problems are, but also they needed help prioritizing what they should, where they should focus their energies. But also part of the DA toolkit is arguably a maturity model. So some of the choices have like in the process diagram we were talking about earlier, some of the choices have an arrow beside them. So you get this list of 7 choices for here's how you can prioritize requirements. When there's an arrow beside that, that's an indication that the strategies towards the top of the list are generally better than the strategies towards the bottom of the list. Like, your mileage may vary, but in general, this is going to prove to be the case. Sometimes there's no arrow because we just couldn't say strategy A is better than strategy B. So in the case of the arrows, that's effectively a mini maturity model. And so if you're familiar with CMMI, they talk about there's 2 versions of CMI, the staged, which everybody went for because they want to get their little gold star. Ooh, we're CMI level 3. Ooh, gold star. But the organizations that were interested in improvement did the continuous version of CMMI, where you focused on the various aspects of what I needed to improve. And I didn't really care. I want to get level 5 at requirements prioritization. I could care less about my little gold star that
the quantitative approach is cute, but it doesn't really necessarily serve your purpose. And the other thing that we wouldn't want to forget, your purpose should be to it's not static. Pardon me?
Well, the purpose should be to improve, right? So I do want to move up the food chain to the most appropriate level for my for my team or my organization in requirements prioritization. It might not be the best level, but it might be like 3 levels. But that's good enough.
From a cost benefit perspective, it might be the right way. And the other thing I think most people just forget is quality is a journey, not a destination. So
exactly, yeah.
So something I think we should really point out at this point, Mark, is that what we've been talking about is what Scott and Mark used to do pre-PMI. I think it's fair to acknowledge, so Scott is saying that a lot of that now is being sort of institutionalized into the website, Transformation Blade, get more information there. But what we have not talked about is the fact that Al Shallowy brought additional value into this exercise when he joined PMI, because he takes it to a higher level in many ways, and really looks at the overall value stream, not about just delivering solutions, but end-to-end enterprise value, leading up the enterprise, those kinds of things. And so his content was kind of merged with ours. And when you talk with Joshua Barnes, he will tell you, because he's working very closely with PMI right now, about what's next for DA or DA next.
And that was what I wanted. I wanted to have the OGs introduce Disciplined Agile to the population, and then I'll work out what PMI is
doing.
So
when you talk to him, I don't know if it's out yet, and I don't know if it's public. I don't think it's an issue to tell you that PMI recognizes sort of a market that they have missed is educating executives and transformations. And project managers have dreamed of, as Scott said earlier, of being at the table, a seat at the table. There's a great book out there about this. And how do they, being a manager of large initiatives, being successful at it, but it's different to say, I'm also a visionary and I can change the organization, just deliver value for projects. And the new value management offering coming from PMI, I believe, addresses that market. And it's a stepping stone for project managers to go to what's next. So look into that. I'm
that's a great